Hello everyone, welcome to the webinar. Today's webinar is hosted by Wisconsin Career Development Association. On-Course Principles for Success, presented by Travis Ramage. This webinar was coordinated by Sheri Eisch. Sheri Eisch is Wisconsin Career Development Association's Vice President of Professional Development. A recording of this webinar will be posted in the WCDA LinkedIn group and the WCDA Facebook group. Feel free to type questions and comments in the chat throughout the webinar. My name is Marie Smith, and I will be moderating the chat today. I will share your questions and comments with the presenter later on during the webinar. Let's get started. On-Course Principles for Success, presented by Travis Ramage.
Great. I'm going to close my chat box so I don't get distracted by the chatter. And as Marie said, she'll be monitoring it and bringing up questions. We'll have time for questions at the end. So I'm going to close that. I just want to thank Marie and the Wisconsin Career Development Association for allowing me to present on the topic of on-course principles for our success, or principles for success. As I was chatting with Marie before we went live today, I've been using on-course for probably about 14 years in different capacities, usually with college success strategy courses at various institutions that I worked in. But more recently, I've applied on-course to career development specifically for employees here at UW Health. And so I'll kind of talk about how I made that connection. Just to provide you some background, so I have some street cred out there for what I'm talking about today. About 2 years ago, I participated and took the Global Career Development Facilitator course at UW-Madison. Judy Edinger offers that through UW-Madison, and I finally took it after so many years working in higher education. Always wanted to do it, but just never had the opportunity. And so did that about 2 years ago, which reignited my interest in career development. And you can see my other education there, career and technical education degree, EDS degree at Stout, and other things there. In terms of experiences, I currently use on-course in our Learn at Work program here at UW Health. My colleagues, Zach and Judy. Judy is also on the line. I think Zach might be joining too. We use it in our Learn at Work program here for employees, which I'll talk about as we kind of go throughout the program. Worked in the College of Letters and Sciences for a couple of years at UW-Madison. Not directly connected to students, but working with degree audits, making sure their audits were reporting their degree requirements correctly, but also got connected in their career exploration course for the College of Letters and Science, and was a career mentor for that class for about probably 4 semesters. Worked at Aurora University in academic services as an academic advisor and interim director, and then my first job in higher education was at what used to be called UW-Barron County, now part of UW-Eau Claire, in student services. Did adult student advising and college success advising up there. So my heart is in the higher education field, definitely, in bringing some of that heart into the world of employee development with UW Health. Click the next button. So kind of give you a layout of what we're going to talk about today. Going to dip into some career development theory review. I'm taking what I learned from that career development course a couple years ago and highlighting some theories that I think connect very well with on-course. And you'll see that connection as we go through. So we review Holland's theory and Krumboltz theory, Super's theory, and Schlossberg's theory. Not too in-depth, but just to kind of refresh our memories on kind of what their theories are about. And then diving into on-course. What is on-course? What are the principles, and how can we apply that to career development? So career development theory, I'm actually going to open my chat now. I'm going to ask folks that are out there participating in the webinar just to kind of put in the chat, when you think about career development theory, what comes to mind? What theories come to mind? What strategies come to mind when you think about career development theory? Just give you about 30 seconds or so to brainstorm some ideas out there in the chat. When you think of career development, what are some of the big theories that come to mind? little pop quiz for you. See if anyone shares anything there in the chat. People are thinking hard out there. I see Holland and Schlossberg, social cognitive theory. Holland. I think Holland was probably my first, before even going into career development officially. I remember using Holland's code back at UW-Barron County. The strong interest inventory also focuses a lot on Holland's 6 areas. So great. Zach, recognize that name, also thinks of Holland theory. Perfect. So you'll see some of those in our discussion today. So a quick little review, high-level review of Holland's kind of trait and factor theory, vocational choice theory. We're probably all familiar with the 6 components. Current interests are an expression of individuals' personality and kind of how it influences the careers they go into. Holland has the 6 different kind of types there, both people types as well as environment and career types. So we've got the realistic type that looks at kind of the problem solvers. The investigative type are folks that are looking for kind of ideas and data, or careers that have a lot of ideas and data to them. Artistic is that creative expression, having the opportunity to allow our creative juices to flow and use those creative juices in what we do in our work. The social type, providing that empathetic and nurturing personality that we have, helping students, helping employees, find their paths, or working in careers that allow us to do that. Enterprising is that interpersonal, persuasive type. So folks interested in going into sales, or maybe even a little bit of teaching and education as well. And then that last type is the conventional type. Folks that really strive in an environment that has order and system to it, and have that type of personality to it. And so we're a mix of those as well. Usually when you take a Holland Code assessment, you get 3 of those letters, a mix of those 3 letters, and that can influence both understanding who you are, kind of being aware of your own interests, but then also how does that connect to different careers? If you have a realistic interest style, what kind of careers can help feed that interest that you have? And so people seek environments that align their type, leading to satisfaction and productivity. So the more that that your style, your interest is aligned with the work environment, the more happy you are, the more productive you are, the more excited you are about what you're doing. And so as I was talking to Marie in preparation for this today and early this morning before we got on, I was just really pumped about talking about OnCourse and just the excitement of it. And that's kind of my kind of realistic, I think, style coming out, because it gives me a model, it gives me a structure when I'm meeting with students, when I'm meeting with employees. And so hopefully you'll hear that excitement and see that excitement in my presentation today. Next one is Krumboltz's theory, his social learning theory. Again, this one you can kind of see up in the upper corner there. I'm talking about instrumental learning and associative learning. Instrumental learning is when we have a positive outcome followed by a given behavior where we're rewarded or recognized for behavior that we do. Getting that A or that good grade, on that paper in school, or getting a compliment from a coworker. Here at UW Health, we have a high five system where we can send a high five to somebody who does a good job, and they get an email, and their supervisor gets an email. And so just that positive outcome of doing something good. Associative learning connects with observing outcomes experienced by others. And so we're receiving assignments and additional opportunities. And then they go into this more social learning theory there. Also talks about kind of how heredity and our environment shapes our behavior. And us as counselors, career coaches, can help shape the environment to create an environment that's conducive to learning, to allow our clients, our employees, our students to really thrive in an environment, to really help them figure out, what is their next goal in careers. And so you can see there on the screen, the primary goal of us as counselors, career services providers, is to help our clients to create more satisfying lives for themselves. We want everyone to be in a career, be in a role that really suits them, that allows them to experience that flow, as they say, in our work. And so, the first step is finding out, what is troubling our client, what is, where is our client at, what can we do to help them, what's troubling them, are they in a job that doesn't meet, their Holland code where they're at, are they in a job that, maybe isn't paying them what they need to provide for their family, are they looking for opportunities for growth in that area, what's troubling them. And then understanding their thoughts, feelings, and actions connected to that issue. And then, our doorbell just rang, so our dog is going crazy. Then the third step is kind of brainstorming a possible first action with your client. So you know what their issue is, you understand their thoughts, feelings, and actions. So what is the kind of one action they can take in taking a step in the right direction? Is it taking an assessment? Is it helping them figure out what they're really interested in, that kind of thing? And then the last step is evaluating success from behaviors your client had learned to apply. So seeing your client or your student or your employee succeed in whatever that first action step is. Maybe it's getting that promotion. Maybe it's just feeling more comfortable in their job. If it's students, maybe it's finding a major that they've been searching for, and just evaluating that success. Another component or another theory that Krumboltz has, which really resonated with me in the career course I took, was based on his book, Luck is No Accident. Where we are kind of maintaining an exploratory attitude while encountering unexpected life events. So finding the reason or opportunity that something happened. Kind of thinking of, and we'll be talking about this when I hit the on-course principles, is kind of using that creator voice of, why is this happening to me? What can I do to take this opportunity and make it a positive experience? An experience, a more recent one I had, I talked about this Learn at Work program that we offer our employees here at UW Health. And Zach and Judy are both on the call, so they can resonate with this. We were, are talking about, can we really offer this program in this time of COVID? I mean, we work in a healthcare facility. The surge is up. We have a lot of patients coming in that are sick. Does it make sense to offer this program to our employees, being in a room with these employees once a week for 2 hours? And so there's discussion of, do we move this program back? And we could just say, oh man, this sucks that we can't offer this program. Instead, we're just like, wow, what else could we do? Maybe we could do a weekly lunch bag series for employees so they can still get some career development. Maybe it's creating a blog that employees can have access to. So again, using that creator voice, saying, this is a happenstance moment. We probably wouldn't have thought this way otherwise if we didn't have this experience, but now we have this opportunity to think outside the box. So that happenstance, the attitude to develop regarding unexpected events includes that curiosity. What else can we do? That persistence. Let's keep trucking on. Let's keep moving. Let's not let this roadblock, prevent us from reaching our goals. Providing that flexibility, and just having an optimism, saying, this is a bummer that we're experiencing COVID, but what can we do to still make this a positive experience? And the same thing can be connected to students too. Some campuses are, talking about, not having students come back after Thanksgiving. What can you all do as career counselors to still allow your students to do that career development, maybe while they are from home? Another theory, developmental theory, looks at our self-concept. And so, how we see ourselves, how we would like to be seen, how we think others might be viewing us. This can be both from subjective and objective information that we get. Our self-concept is influenced by a lot of different things: our culture, our family, our life experiences, life events that happen to us. That all forms our concept. And our perceptions of ourselves, do increase and decrease by the reinforcement that we receive, kind of going back to that social learning theory a little bit. So it's a little bit connected to that. One thing that Super talked about were these different lifespan developments. We have these different stages that we follow. We have this growth span where we kind of form our self-concept by those experiences, by our culture, by our family. We have the exploration period where we're learning and committing and training and engaging. We're going off to college. We're maybe getting our first job, exploring what our interests are. Then that next 20 years, 25 to 45, we're establishing ourselves, getting settled, making contributions to the field, participating in webinars, attending webinars. Then that 45 to 65, I'm just over that, into that area of maintaining and updating our skills, taking that career development course, continuing to learn. And then this last period of disengagement, the little model up there I have calls it declining, which is a little negative. Disengagement too has a kind of a negative connotation to it, but it's kind of slowing down and engaging in a different lifestyle. We're in retirement. We're enjoying ourselves, enjoying the fruits of our labor from the previous 20, 40 years that we were working, and that lifespan changes as well. Changes kind of what we do. Then the third component of Super's theory is our life roles. So I really like this model. Google is a great place to get images. And so I did a little Googling of Super's development theory and saw this image. It does a great job of providing the different stages that I just talked about, but then our different life roles. Our role as a child to our parents or guardians, our role as a student, as an employee, as a life partner, as a homemaker, not in the sense of kind of your old traditional view of homemaker, but making a home for yourself, buying a house, buying a condo, kind of making your nest is that life role. We're acquiring things, serving our role as parent or guardian to others, even if it's our fur children that we're a parent and guardian to. And then this leisure light is a category he talks about, just that life of leisure and our role of enjoying those things that we like to do in our time off, and then our life as a citizen and our role as a citizen in our society. So all those roles influence kind of what we do and what paths we choose in our careers, and might, depending on what life stage we're at, we might make a change based on the role that we're moving into or that stage we're moving into. Lastly, and before I kick into on-course, is Schlossberg's transition theory. This one, it really connects well to on-course, which you'll see as we go into it. But Nancy Schlossberg's theory has 4 components to it. Is the situation, that a transition is triggered by a situation. It could be a layoff, it could be a life change, it could be you moved cities, you've got married, things that changed within your family structure, parents, brothers, sisters, whatever it might be, some situation, life situation happens. And then you take that time to kind of look at your inner strength and experience how one's inner strength and experience can impact your ability to cope with that situation. Kind of going back to that self-concept idea that we talked about earlier. So we have the situation, we experience what do we have to bring to that situation, and then what's the availability of support that we have that impacts our ability to cope with that transition. Do we have friends and family that will support us in our decision if it's a career decision that we're making? What resources are out there and available to us in the community to help support us? At UW Health, we work closely with the Urban League of Greater Madison as well as Centro Hispano, a community organization, to help folks that participate in those organizations, help them find careers. And so, are those types of agencies, organizations out there for you to help you support your career, or your students or employees support themselves? So looking at that support network that we have out there. And then once you've covered those 3 areas, developing a strategy, developing a plan to move through and hopefully out of that situation. You can see, by the graphic I have up there, it's kind of a circular it's a cycle that we go through. Life happens, and there might be times that we, go revisit that self quadrant there and figure out, what are our inner strengths and experiences that we can use for that situation. Maybe there's additional supports that happens, or maybe we lose some support that we need to go back and revisit. What can we do to develop strategies to get through that situation that we're going through? So that's your Career Theory 101 in maybe 10 minutes. Just wanted to give that overview to kind of set the foundation. So as we move into OnCourse, to kind of really think about how these theories connect to OnCourse and the OnCourse strategies. So the picture I have up there on the screen is there's different versions of OnCourse. There's one that's just talks about the 8 principles, which I'll be covering in a little bit. This book specifically that we use here at UW Health also has a Study Skills Plus edition, which is great if you're looking at using this for a college success course. It really gives you not only the kind of the personal skills, the personal awareness, provides students that, but also provides them how to apply those principles to study skills. So it's a kind of a combination of a book of personal awareness as well as Study Skills Plus. And we even use some of that in our Learn at Work program here at UW Health. So highly recommend that book if you're looking at using it in a college success course or even a career course. So what is OnCourse? So traditionally, it was developed as a learner-centered structure to help students learn more deeply. That's how I initially used it. That's how I was trained to use it way back when, back in 2006, 14 years ago. I took OnCourse Workshop 1 and kind of got introduced to the Kool-Aid. However, here at UW Health, we took it to another level and used it in career development. These are actually employees from one of my sections of Learn at Work this last year. You can see they've got the OnCourse book out there on the table, and they're in their scrubs. They are participating in the program on work time to do this program. But with career development, it's kind of an introduction to strategies to empower you or your students or your employees to become an active, responsible individual who continues developing your personal and professional goals, and then being part of a professional community. It's just great in our program to kind of see the students really excel and come in with some ideas of what they want to do, but then by the end of the program, they're applying for other internal programs that we offer here. They're just happier in the jobs that they do. They're taking lead roles. Their supervisors are seeing them in different lights, and so it really helps them develop as a person, as an employee, and some of them even taking it home and being better parents or guardians and role models for their kids. So OnCourse kind of helps employees and students do that. So here are the 8 principles. I'm going to go into these a little more deeply. Some I'm going to highlight even deeper, but there's 8 principles that are listed there. We're going to go into each of these a little more detail on the next slide here. And so successful individuals accept self-responsibility. I'm going to dive deeper into that one specifically, but seeing themselves as a primary cause of their outcomes and experiences, taking ownership for their decisions, for their outcomes, versus kind of seeing themselves as victims. Discovering self-motivation, finding purpose in their lives. In our class, Learn at Work, also when I taught this in college, we would look, that would be the first section of the career development class, was looking at motivation. And we'd look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, looking at the different components of that pyramid. We would apply it to bring in Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech to find out why is that speech so motivating. We brought in other kind of speeches to apply that Maslow's hierarchy of needs to that. We also talk about internal and external motivation with our employees, but discovering what motivates them, what are their interests, what are their values, linking it back to even the Holland Code in those 6 different areas. Wellness team to come in and talk about stress management. We talk about time management, how to manage your time. We also talk about financial management, how to manage our finances. A lot of our employees are entry-level employees. For some, this is their first job. Thinking about your students that you're advising out there on the campuses, They might have this might be their first time of managing their own time. Maybe their family, their parents, their friends have helped them up to this point, but now they're in college and need to do it on their own. What are some tips and strategies for that? As well as financial management. How do they manage their finances, getting that first paycheck? How to start saving, for our employees, how to start saving for college if they want to go back to school. How to start saving for retirement and that kind of thing. So a lot of different things connected to self-management. Employing interdependence and just that mutually supportive relationships, going back to Schlossberg's theory about what support networks are out there. This resonates really well with that component of her theory. Gaining self-awareness, just consciously employing behaviors, beliefs, and attitudes that keep us on course. In our program at UW Health, we use a communication style assessment called the DISC assessment that helps people look at their different communication styles and their blend of communication and just making them aware of how they communicate with others and others communicate with them. Same thing with students, how do they communicate in the classroom and connect with their peers. Another principle is adopting lifelong learning. Just finding valuable lessons and wisdom in every experience that they have. Your students, if you're working on a campus, have that lifelong learning because they're going to college. Our students in our Learn at Work program are adopting lifelong learning by taking the time 2 hours a week out of their day to participate in that lifelong learning experience. Developing emotional intelligence. I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into that. Managing our emotions and also being aware of the emotions of others. And then lastly, just belief in themselves and belief in ourselves. Seeing themselves as capable, lovable, unconditionally worthy as human beings. Those of you who are familiar with SNL, Stuart Smalley, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me, principle. Just belief in yourself that you deserve the best things that you can reach. And be all you can be. And so those are the 8 principles. I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into the responsibility principle as well as the emotional intelligence principle. So we're going to look at some of those principles. First one is accepting responsibility. And I believe this is kind of the foundation of the whole on-course principle, the on-course system, is taking and accepting responsibility for yourself. So customizing this model to, you've got a career decision to make. It's, do you stay in your career? Do this for the students that you're working with, is it a major decision that they're making? What major do they want to pick? And you've got a choice. And when you make that choice, when you have these decisions, sometimes you have these little angels and devils on your shoulders kind of telling you different things. You might have a victim voice talking to you. You may also have, hopefully, instead a creator voice talking to you. And so if you have that, there's 2 kind of victim voices out there. You've got this inner critic, this person that blames yourself, complains about yourself, demeans yourself, just makes excuses. You're not worthy of that next step in your career. You don't have the ability to do it. You are always bad at math, but you are in science, but you want to go into maybe a healthcare career or a career that requires you to do a skill that maybe you think you're not good at. She's like, I'm not even going to try because I'm just not good in that area. So inner critic can really bring us down. Then there's an inner defender where it's not our fault, it's everybody else's fault. They blame others, they complain about others, demean others, never take ownership over their decisions. It's always someone else's fault. Oh, so-and-so got that job, I didn't, so that's what prevented me from getting the job. Just complaining about when in college, being in academic advising for about 15 years, heard this all the time, blaming the professor for the grade, blaming the college for whatever problems going on. Is so easy to kind of turn outward and blame others rather than accepting that responsibility for yourself. So we want to minimize these victim voices that we hear in our heads or on our shoulders. Instead, we want to look at that creator voice. Again, connecting this back to the happenstance theory that Krumboltz had, is that inner guide, providing that objective perspective, taking away the emotions, and just looking at what is really the situation, what can I control, what solutions could I seek, and what actions can I take to get the result that I want. Maybe I didn't get that job this time, but maybe if I update my resume and have someone look at my cover letter to get it polished up, maybe I'll get that opportunity at least to get the interview the next time. Or with employees, maybe I didn't get that job this time, but maybe I need to go back and get some more training or do some more self-discovery, building my skills so I can be ready to take that next job. And then connected to that responsibility model is this wise choice process, which aligns very well with Schlossberg's theory, is kind of what is the present situation? How would you like that situation to be? Do you have a choice? Yes, you have a choice. What are those choices? What are the outcomes and what choice are you going to commit to? Or in other words, what is the decision that needs to be made? Is it I need to pick a major before I graduate? Or I need to, I want to stay at this company. I want to stay at UW Health, but I want to do something else. What is that goal? Is it looking for a supervisor role? Is it looking for a patient care role? Is it looking for some other role in the organization? What options do I have? List out those options, both positive and negative. If I do this, what could happen? So evaluating those options, the what if, and then making a promise to yourself and a commitment. Okay, I'm going to make this choice. I'm going to try it and see what happens. If it doesn't work out, coming back, using that creative voice, looking back at those options, maybe it's another option that you need to explore than the one that you chose. Rather than just giving up and using that victim's voice, saying, well, it didn't work this time, I'm just going to be stuck in this career forever. And then the last principle that I'm going to focus on, and then we'll kind of jump into having you all participate and kind of share some thoughts connected to these principles, is emotional intelligence. And so looking at your emotional self-awareness and emotional self-management. So the top part of this quadrant is all about you, kind of your personal focus of your own self-awareness, your own self-management. And then the bottom part of the quadrant is the social or external, looking at social awareness, being aware of other people's emotions and what they're going through, as well as managing those relationships that you have. And so we're going to dive into each of these quadrants a little bit more deeply here. So the first one is that emotional self-awareness, just knowing your feelings in the moment. An example I have here is effectively identifying your feelings in the moment rather than immediately sending off that emotionally charged response in an email. Maybe you're upset with somebody, they sent you an email, and you can just feel your temperature rising. You can feel your face getting red. You can feel, just that anxiety, and you're just like typing away at your keyboard and sending off a message in an immediate response. Emotional intelligence is stepping back and realizing, wow, I'm feeling this. I better not hit that send quite yet. You might not even want to put anybody's address in that to line in case you accidentally hit send before you've had time to process your feelings. But just knowing your feelings in the moment, identifying, are you upset? Are you sad? Are you angry? What is it? It doesn't even have to be, angry emails. It could be, wow, someone did a great job. You want to send them a congratulatory email. But think about, how you want to phrase that in a way that really exudes that excitement that you have for them. So it can be both, positive and negative emotions that you experience. Then the next step is you've identified your emotions. Now, how do you manage those emotions? So taking time to reflect and or walk away from that situation rather than making that decision. So taking time to identify that you have these emotions, breathe, count to 10 or 100, depending on how emotional you feel. But before responding to it, the last thing you want to do is kind of do that knee-jerk reaction when you're in that emotional state, whether it's a positive or negative emotional state. You want to make sure that you manage those emotions appropriately before acting on them. So once you've kind of been aware of your own emotions and how to manage them, then you're looking at others, looking at kind of empathizing accurately with others' emotions. I encourage you all, if you haven't, to go out to Brene Brown's, just Google Brene Brown empathy and watch her short empathy video. She does a great job of defining empathy versus sympathy. She describes empathy as it feels connection with others. You're feeling with other people, feeling maybe not exactly how they're feeling, but you're trying to make a connection with them, empathizing with what they're going through, whether it's a positive or a negative situation that they're going through. Where sympathy drives disconnection, where you're trying to provide a silver lining. She mentions in her video, the last thing you want to do to someone who shares something really emotional with you, whether it's positive or negative, is you starting the sentence with "at least." Something happens where your son or daughter, child, isn't doing well in school, and the example she's in there, well, at least your other child is doing well. It doesn't really help the fact that the one child is struggling. And so just offering comfort to a colleague who's having a bad day, providing, she talks about perspective taking, providing a perspective, taking that person's perspective on what they're experiencing, staying out of judgment, not judging them from what they're feeling. You don't know, what their experience is totally, so don't dismiss their feelings, just acknowledge them, which connects to, recognizing the emotions in others, recognizing that, wow, they're having a great day, or wow, they're having a bummer of a day, and just being there to support them and communicating that recognition of their feelings is really important. And it's a choice on how we do that with our colleagues. So just providing that empathy. Really encourage you to check out her video. Then the last component there is handling emotions in relationships with skill and harmony. Again, resist saying something negative about a person in public that might embarrass them. As an example, just handling emotions with skill and harmony to maintain those relationships. So that is kind of OnCourse in a nutshell. I'm going to open up my chat slide, so I'm going to be asking you all to participate a little bit here along the way. So we're going to dive into each of these principles, have some quotes on the screen that I think resonate well with the principle, and then providing you kind of a thought to kind of think about as we go through. The one thing that you're going to be looking for, I'm going to have a little thought bubble up on the screen for the screens that I'm going to ask for your participation. So I will cue you up to ask for your participation. So the first one is kind of accepting responsibility. We have a quote here from Eleanor Roosevelt. Our one's philosophy is not best expressed in words, it's expressed in the choices one makes. In the long run, we shape our lives and we shape ourselves. The process never ends until we die. And the choices we make are ultimately our own responsibility. When I saw that quote, I was like, my gosh, that is accept responsibility. And so thinking about this in your own development or your students' development, reflecting at a time that you took responsibility for your own personal or professional development, and what choice did you make and why? So something for you just to ponder on your own, not something to do in the chat at this point. Thanks, Zach, for putting the Brene Brown link in there in the chat box. Encourage you all to check that out. See, now I'm going to get distracted by all the chatting going on in the room. Discover self-motivation. Abdul Kalam is a previous president of India, and you can read his quote there. What I encourage you to do, and this is where I'm going to ask you to participate in the chat, is share 3 motivators for why you chose the career path that you're in right now. So if someone asks you, why do you do what you do? Why do you get up in the morning and work with those students? Or why do you get up in the morning and go into work? Or now for some of us that work remotely, go down to your home office. What motivates you to do what you do in your career? And provide a little pause to let you all, doesn't have to be 3 motivators either. If it's just first thing that comes to mind and why you do what you do. A little bit of time to see if a couple pop up that we can reference. Time for a beverage. So Zach, helping people become better versions of themselves. Shauna works in special ed, and to see a student do something they never thought possible. Oh, I'm gonna get misty reading these. Enrich the lives of others, striving people to help themselves. And that's why we go into our professions. That's why, you know, probably most of us have an S in the Holland Code in our mix, because we go into this profession because of our nurturing that we have for others and wanting others to be successful. Great. Feel free to kind of keep putting them in there. I'm going to kind of keep moving on here. Another one is self-management. Harry S. Truman, reading the lives of great men or people, we'll say, I found that the first victory they won was over themselves. Self-discipline with all of them came first. So that self-management is really, really important. So thinking about, as you're participating in here, we're off to a roll here. A lot of folks participating, which is great. Share a strategy in how you manage your health, time, and finances, especially during these, again, stressful times of COVID. We all are experiencing it in different ways. We might have people that we know that have gone through it, or students that have gone through it, coworkers that have gone through it. And we need to take time for ourselves as well. And so think about what are some strategies you're using for both your health, maybe your time management, your finances. What are some strategies that you use for your own self-management? Yeah, I like Melissa Grout's comment there, but I want to provide the help to students, back to my previous question about motivation, help to students that I wish I had as a student. I think that's why I went into academic advising initially, as well. As I struggled. I was on academic probation my time as a student. My first 2 years of college, I was on the edge of getting booted because of my GPA, and tried to use as much support as I could at the time. But in my role as an academic advisor, being that person to kind of help others is why I did what I did, and why I do what I do with our employees. Yeah, Shauna, scheduling time to work out and get outside, checking in with myself when I start to feel negative and overwhelmed. Yeah, just having that, taking that pause to think about, how am I feeling? What do I need to do? We take our dog for walks in the morning, walks at night, gets us out, gets our dog out for exercise. So it's really important to take that time for ourselves. Taking time to be in nature, not check work email on weekends and days off. Definitely just connecting. Great ideas. And great suggestions you can give your students or employees as you're working with them, letting them know what works for you. Maybe it might work for them too. Tuning into the internal dialogue. Great. So just kind of finishing up here. We got about 15 minutes to go. I want to make sure we got time for questions at the end. Employing interdependence, thinking about how you can increase your collaboration with others in your department and organization or professional field. Stephen Covey is up there, our guru of 7 habits, which is what the 8 principles are very closely aligned with. So figuring out how we can collaborate with others is really important. Getting that self-awareness. We have our friend Maslow there. Reflecting on your last success in your professional development. Which of your skills influence that result? So being aware of what you brought to that situation. Adopting lifelong learning. What life lessons have you learned in your current role? The author of Little Women there, Louisa Alcott. I'm not afraid of storms, for I'm learning how to sail my ship. That's kind of what we're doing. We're figuring out how to sail our ship along our career process and career development. So what life lessons have you learned in your current role? Could be something you could ask yourself, as well as your students, as they're figuring out their major, figuring out how to do well in their classes. Developing emotional intelligence. What strategies do you use to manage your emotions when you're feeling overwhelmed, angry, anxious, and or sad? Some of the ones you've already shared, might be some of those ways of getting out for a walk, watching a comedy or funny video, just taking that time to release some of that steam that you have, whether it's positive or negative steam. And then, of course, the great philosopher Carlos Santana. I'm laughing because I know the secret of life, and the secret of life is what I've validated. Is that I've validated my existence. I know that I am worth more than my house, my bank account, and any physical thing. So I encourage you all to kind of list what has been your greatest contribution to your department, organization, or professional field. Asking your students that same question. What is their greatest contribution up to this point? How can they tap into that contribution that they've made and take that and continue contributing to what they like? So kind of making the connection between on-course principles and career development theories. We've got our 8 principles there on the side. We've got our 5 theories that I gave us our 10-minute lesson on at the beginning of this webinar. And so how do these connect? They connect by looking at accepting responsibility. Social learning theory connects close with that, as well as transition theory. As I mentioned, Schlossberg's 4S. 4S is what's the situation, what are the strategies, what are the supports and successes that you've had. Self-motivation is out there with the vocational choice theory. What's the Holland Code that you have, and how does that influence your motivation? You can see, each of them has some of a connection to the theories that a lot of us have been trained in. If we've gone to school for career development training, a lot of on-course is connected in that. And I was telling Marie, this opportunity, this webinar allowed me to really purposely see that connection. I mean, I've been doing on-course, like I said, for 14 years, and this provided me that pause to say, oh, we're really doing career development when we're doing on-course. And here's how those theories connect to what we're doing. So with that, we've got about 12 minutes left, I believe. I will turn it over to Marie to kind of help us see what kind of questions we may have had chatting in the classroom while I've been going through the webinar today.
Thank you so much, Travis, for talking about the on-course principles of success. If you have a question or comment, please type it in the chat and I will share it with our presenter, Travis. Also, if any of you are interested in receiving a certificate of attendance for attending this webinar, I just posted a link in the chat. All you have to do is click on that link and fill out the quick form. The form asks you for your name. However you type your name in the form is how your name will appear on your certificate, and that certificate of attendance will be auto-delivered to you within the next few minutes in your email. If you don't see it, check your spam folder. A recording of the webinar will be posted in the Wisconsin Career Development Facebook page and the Wisconsin Career Development LinkedIn page. If you live outside of Wisconsin, you can still join those 2 social media pages. Tammy writes, great information. Thank you, Travis.
Oh, she's one of my former students. Yay, Tammy.
Chris writes, thank you for your presentation, Travis. And Shauna asks, I may be thinking of something different, but is there a high school version of this program?
I think it can be used in high school or college or in a work environment. I don't think it's necessarily is pigeonholed to one area. As I mentioned, I've been able to adapt it. We've been able to adapt it, Zach, Judy, and I, to Learn at Work for employees at UW Health. So I think it's very adaptable and accessible for high school students as well.
Wonderful. Sheri writes, this is my first experience with on-course principles. Very good information, and I will be reviewing the presentation and exploring more.
Awesome. And feel free to, my contact information is on the slide, so feel free to send me an email, give me a call if you want to talk more about on-course. I'd be happy to share kind of what we do, what Zach, Judy, and I do here at UW Health with our employees. We have a syllabus for our program so they can kind of get the feel of higher education if they're thinking about going back to school. So I'd be happy to share share any of those resources with you all. And Heidi Rosenberg, who also happens to be my significant other, teaches at Madison College, and she noted in there that Madison College uses first year uses OnCourse in a lot of their classes. Who recently graduated from high school, so yeah, so it can definitely be adaptable. Are there more training on emotional intelligence? The OnCourse itself has a chapter of emotional intelligence in the book. We use the model that we use is very simplified model. OnCourse does. Here at UW Health, we also do another training that uses a 5-component model. I would encourage you to go out and look at Daniel Goldman's information. He was kind of the guru of emotional intelligence, or the emotional quotient. Encourage you to kind of look him up for more information or training on emotional intelligence.
Thank you so much, everyone. If you have additional questions, go ahead and type them in the chat. If you have ideas or suggestions for future webinars, go ahead and type those in the chat as well. We thank you so much for your time, and happy Career Development Month to all of you. And on behalf of Wisconsin Career Development Association, Travis, we want to thank you for your time and talent and presenting today's webinar. Thanks, everyone.
Happy to talk about OnCourse anytime.